Good afternoon and welcome back to a very interesting session. We have covered manufacturing, we have covered the policy level discussion on Indian economy, and now we are going to focus on Indian service sector. We have very eminent speakers with us. I would request our moderator, Mr. Siddhartha Sanal, Chief Economist and Head Research, Bandhan Bank Limited, and Member Economic Affairs Committee, Bengal Chamber of Commerce, to take the session forward. To Mrs. Sanal.
Thank you very much, Arnab. It's a privilege for me to be a moderator, act as a moderator of this particular session with a number of absolute stalwarts in this particular area. Right now, we have with us Mr. Arnab Basu, Vice President, the Bengal Chamber and Advisory and Leader and Partner of PwC India, Mr. Samarprit Singh, Director, JIS Group, and Mr. Ajay Thakur, Head BSc SME and Startup BSc Limited. We have all the profiles there on our platform. So without getting into the details of the panelists, I think we will get straight into the topic. I'll try to just introduce the topic and go more for perspective from the various panelists. Just to lay down the backdrop, it's impossible to talk about the Indian economy today without discussing about the services sector. In the 80s and pre-80s, when we had some kind of Hindu rate of growth, Hindu rate of growth a few decades back, at that point of time, services sector was possibly a very, very small one. But in the new millennium, when India is a growth giant in the global arena with 8% plus kind of growth, the big leap has possibly come forward from the services sector itself. So, and with time, the dimensions and the complexities of the services sector have changed dramatically. But with that came a lot of support for the other segments also. So basically, there had been a lot of forward and backward linkages that we could establish over a period of time. And today, we in this 1 hour allotted to us, we'll try to learn from our experts how exactly they see India's preparedness for the India services sector preparedness for the journey ahead, maybe for the next 5 years or 10 years or even beyond that. I'll possibly start with Mr. Basu. Mr. Basu, my first initially the way we have thought that if all of you could give a bit of a opening remark, maybe just for about 3-4 minutes from each of you, and then I'll try with a few specific questions for all of you. If Mr. Basu, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Siddhartha. So as I said that, the services sector has probably emerged as, the dominant sector in India's GDP. And it has also attracted a lot of significant foreign investment. It has contributed, I think, significantly to our exports. And to a large extent, it creates a huge amount of employment. And if you look at the share of the services sector, obviously, if you look at the total GVA of FY21, it accounted for almost 54% of it. And I think, it has been increasing at a very healthy CAGR, and we hope that it would continue to, grow further. And within the, export services, of course, India's IT and business services market is projected to grow very fast. So I think these are all, obviously good things which are happening. But I think if you look at what's happening within the sector amidst all this growth, I would say that there's this huge push towards digitization, right? And I don't mean digital services per se. I'm saying digitization of any services which you're, taking. And along with digitization, there's this huge talent crisis which the services sector is now going through. Sector by sector, if you look at the subsectors also, you will find that we have talent crises on almost every one of them. And if you look at now, coming back to what's happening on the digitization side, I think a lot of the services are being given or imparted in a very different way. And that's creating a lot of disruption in the market. You would have seen the number of unicorns which have come up in India in the last calendar year. You would see that almost 95% of them are providing some services or the other, and they're disrupting the market. They're disrupting the market in terms of they might be a fintech startup, they might be a health tech startup, they might be an agri-tech startup. But the issue is that the entire services sector is also going through a huge amount of disruption. And the COVID crisis has obviously not made it any easy for people like us who operate in this sector, who operate in professional services, because I think a lot of these talent crisis, now I'll move to the talent crisis side of it. A lot of the talent crisis has been, because of two reasons. One, that the overall services sector has continued to grow within the COVID crisis over the last 2 years. And a lot of the digitization plans or digital transformation plans of organizations have been brought forward because of COVID, which has obviously led to a lot of demand in the market. The demand in the market has also been something which has, become now a global phenomenon. And the global demand can easily be serviced from India now, because earlier you had to compete with the local, talent in the, Western markets. Right now, with the kind of work from home, work from anywhere model that we have, organizations across the globe are trying to tap into the huge talent market of India, and which has led to the talent crisis, which has led to the great resignation that we are talking of. It has also led to a fair amount of disengagement among people. And if you think of the services sector, one of the key things is that it's very people centric, it's very people oriented. Whether you are providing services in a bank or from an insurance company to a hospital to a audit firm, or to maybe providing services around education and skill development, it's all very people driven. So that's been the other one. And in terms of, I would say, some of the challenges that we have seen or we continue to grapple with, I think skills program will continue to be a big issue for the services sector, because the overall talent market is so heated up that you just need to know a few words for you to land a job or for you to land something. So how do I actually skill up our ecosystem is something which is a big issue. I think the next big issue is the quality of the services being rendered. So while there's a lot of growth, there's also a lot of concern that the quality of services will, sort of go down. And the third is, how do I look at the asymmetry? The asymmetry in the society. I think this has been talked of in many forums, that the wealth concentration has, significantly grown. And that's leading to a problem in India where, are we comfortable with this kind of a wealth asymmetry? And that's something which is then leading to your access to health, access to education, access to living conditions. So that's something which we'll also have to think of. Of course, the government has been monitoring this. I would say the Indian services exports have continued to grow. But if you look at some of the government initiatives or even private sector initiatives, I think the DOT has been very active around telecom side. We have been participating in several of the global telecom services initiatives. On the health side, health ministries, e-Sanjeevani program, or a lot of health tech startups, whether it's around BrainSight or Fluid AI, a lot of them have come in, which are making it more accessible. If you look at skills and education, a lot of policies have come in from the Ministry of Education, from UGC, and whether we look at the Gamma skills automation training or the Ignite program, many of these programs have come in which have tried to look at this. But I would probably say that we are far from our goal of really solving this talent and quality crisis within the overall services sector. So that would be my opening comments. Siddhartha.
Fantastic, Arnab. And ended up having a long list of notes, talking points on which I'll possibly come back later. But I mean, just in this particular round of opening comments, if I may go to Simaprit, if I may request you to have your opening remarks.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. As the topic says about service sector, as Mr. Basu rightly said about the growth of service sector in the last year, they say in spite of the fact that many of the sub-sectors are not open as of now. Talk about hospitality, hotels, tourism, education, and still we have managed to have a 8% growth. And just we can just imagine if when the things start getting better with the pandemic easing out, the growth of service sector will be much more than what we have experienced in the last 5 to 10 years. And in fact, there was an article I said the IT exports of India, it's much more than the oil imports of India. I think none of us could have imagined 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that this is our export will be bigger than the oil import. I think this is a huge achievement for our country. And coming to the growth sector, we're talking about industry 4.0, we talk about education 4.0, health tech, ed tech. The HR, the human resources has a very important place and that's where the education sector has a very important role, because the new skills like cloud computing, data mining, data science, blockchain, cryptography, now the cryptocurrency has also been formally introduced, 3D printing, robotics, and many more. The way skills are changing, the way that knowledge is changing, the education sector has to be on their toes now, I think. And the government policies have been encouraging so far. The national education policy which states has earlier, I was mentioning to someone earlier, the change of academia used to happen 10 years behind the academia used to be behind the industry. Now the change has more faster. We change our syllabus every 2 years, and this is pan-India basis. So I'm hoping next 2-3 years, Mr. Basu will not have a complaint that the skills shortage is not there. And we have to understand the fact that last 2 years has been a basic washout for all education institutions. We opened in November, they again closed in December. So this is one of the challenges that we're hoping that the next few years will not be there, and we can do all of the plans that government wants us to do, both the central and the state level. And there are few points that service sector, we are expecting it to grow in the health tech and the AVGC, the animation, visual effect, gaming and comic industry, which I'll be speaking in the next session, next part. And that's it.
Fantastic, Samaprit. Very, very nice, lucid and succinct summary. I would request Mr. Thakur also to share his opening remarks before I come back for one more round of a few other points to all of you.
Thanks, Siddharth. It's really a pleasure to be here on this panel and deliberating and discussing about the economy of the country and especially about the service sector. And I'm the part of that service sector, of course, BSc. And let me tell you, we have been talking about the employment and all those things in last few years where, almost all the sectors got impacted. But let me tell you, somewhere unemployment has brought these people into the capital market, whereby, we have seen the number of investors going beyond 10 crores, which was almost 3 crores in 1920. So overall, when we talk about the service sector, service sector is very wide. It's not related only to IT and ITES or a startup. It's also related to tourism, hospitality, communication, and many other things. Now, as far as the service sector are concerned, I would like to divide it into two parts. One pre-pandemic, one during the pandemic, and one post-pandemic. Now, pre-pandemic, if you see that, the service sector has been contributed to the extent of 55% to the GDP. And in fact, they have created huge employment, across and in fact, it was the driving path of India growth story over last 2 decades. though manufacturing sector has been more or less stagnant. However, during the pandemic period, we have seen, the agriculture sector has shown a big growth, and which has been able to, sustain the economy. But as far now, when we talk about the pandemic period, yes, we have seen huge growth in the ITS services. We have seen huge growth in the number of startups, turning into unicorns. Almost 44 unicorns have been created in the last financial year itself. And India today has got almost 83 unicorns having a value of $277 billion. So it's great achievement as far as ITES, and in that you can talk about all sorts of technology, which have created disruptions in the market, which have created employment, and which have also created huge valuation. So that's the one part. The second part, comprises of, again, which creates a huge employment. Now, let me tell you, there is a disparity. Though 50-55% service sectors contribute to the GDP, but when we come to the employment part, it only contributes to 25% of the total employment. Again, here there is a disparity. Now, in this pandemic period, if you see, trade, hospitality sector, tourism, and other allied services, there has been a huge disruption. Almost, 60 lakh people have lost the employment. And, that is creating a huge pressure on the government side also. Government has come out with various initiatives. They are trying to support this industry. Even in this budget, the government has given an additional support of 50,000 crore. But it will take time. And I am quite sure that with the economy opening up, the other components of the service sector will also start contributing to the economy of the country. Third very important thing, that from the government side, the initiative that has been taken was towards the ease of doing business, whereby if you see the OPS, other service, OSP, other service provider, there the government has come out with a policy, and that policy is great policy, let me tell you, whereby, I think the ease of doing business has been done. And I am quite sure that this will create huge employment in the country. So that is a very proactive step that the government has taken. Again, the PLI scheme, if we talk about there, through that scheme, the government is trying to give support to the telecommunication sector also. So I think these new initiatives that the government are planning to take will take the service sector to the new levels. Now, as far as the startup ecosystem is concerned, which is also a part of the service sector, through that, I think going forward, you will see a lot of service side exports going to happen. And again, it will bring a lot of foreign exchange for the country. Yes, I quite agree with Arnabji that yes, a skill enhancement is required. We have to put a lot of, support system for the skill enhancement. Still, let me tell you, a lot of services are coming from the MSME sector, where we are seeing that, supply of employment is more than the demand. And therefore, the wages side, there is a huge pressure. I think on these things, there is a need to work. And I'm always talking about the MSME sector. We need to bring them into the formal space. Most of the macro, small and medium sectors are in the informal space. And therefore, all the government initiatives that are being taken don't reach to them. And that's why they are badly impacted. So I think that all the stakeholders, whether the stock exchange like us, whether the economists, whether the bankers, they have to ensure that the credit offtake should go towards the service sector. Because, recently I have seen that the credit offtake to the service sector was just 3.6%. And it was mainly because of the contact-based services. Okay, I'm not talking about contactless services, but because of the contact-based services. We need to ensure that the credit offtake should reach to this contact-based services sector. And once it will happen, because they are the employment creator. So unless until they will be made strong, we will not be able to create employment. And if we will not be able to create employment, then again, service sector is going to get impacted. So I think we need to ensure that we should start, working in this direction. And let me also tell you that out of the FDI inflow, again, first half of the fiscal year 2021-22, we have got FDI inflow of almost, if I'm not wrong, 43 billion US dollar. Out of that, 54% has gone towards the service sector. So I think service sector is just poised to grow. It's just a matter of the time. Once the economy gets open, when everyone is vaccinated, I'm quite sure. And the way the impact of this COVID is getting reduced, I'm quite sure that the service sector once again will go on the growth trajectory and it will contribute to the growth of the nation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thakur. Interestingly, all the speakers they flagged certain issues, certain concerns for the service sector, for the economy as a whole, for their respective domains also. But one key theme you can see from everyone's initial comments, that a strong element of optimism for this particular sector going ahead also. So that's possibly the starting point and a fantastic starting point. Now, if I just go back to Mr. Basu. Mr. Basu, my question to you will be, during the course of the last 20, 30 years, not only India's service sector has expanded in terms of the headline numbers, not only in terms of the number of people it employs, but gradually it has made great strides in terms of moving up in the value chain or moving up in the value ladder. As a professional, you possibly have fantastic direct involvement in that particular process. And in that particular context, if you share your experience, how you have seen transformation of the Indian services sector, I think that will be of great value.
So that's a great question. I think India has really moved the needle on moving up the value chain in terms of the kind of services which we were giving, and some of it is by design, some of it is happening because of just the progress of technology, right? So, and that's something which is bound to happen even more. So while in the past it was about access to skills or access to talent of that caliber who can take up the higher skills, and slowly we were moving it up, I think what's very quickly happening is that now, if you look at the Indian BPO industry, for example, right, a lot of it is going to get automated because of some of the RPA platforms, some of the robotic platforms which are very popular now, and hence you will suddenly find that the focus of the services sector would be towards things which can't be automated. Those would be left to humans, and whatever can be automated would get automated. And that's again a worldwide phenomenon. India obviously had always enjoyed this labor arbitrage, and primarily because of the labor price arbitrage which we had. I think that's going to go away to a large extent, and that's also something which Mr. Thakur highlighted, that a large part of our services sector is MSME driven, where there's a lot of supply, but a lot of unskilled supply. Now, if you add to that even more that the unskilled labor would, or semi-skilled labor would start getting automated, then it is going to create a bigger issue, because the challenge is you have the entire democratic dividend that we keep talking about, that so many of our youth are joining the workforce. It's a dividend only if you can offer them work. If you can't offer them work, then it can very fast become a curse for you. So I think that's where government would need to look in, that how do we get them into productive work? And that's where, again, as Mr. Thakur was highlighting, if you look at the number of unicorns which have come up, I think it has given that faith to Indians, the common Indian, that let me try and do something different. But can it be done if you're semi-skilled? Probably not. And hence I highlighted that as you move up the value chain, the number of jobs up the value chain would, sort of be less than what you have, towards the bottom. And that's where I think this asymmetry, this populism, this skill gap, all of this has to be taken. What Simaprit was talking about, if you look at the last 2 years, yes, we have had a lot of people who have gone through colleges. But, as Simaprit was saying, we have not been able to open colleges for most of the time, right? So you would suddenly have people who have gone through 2-year programs sitting at home. Now we can debate how effective their learning was, in these 2 years. So those kind of questions will come back and haunt us for years now, because these 2 years can't just be overlooked. They will have an impact because there would be a lot of people who would come into the job, into the workforce with probably not as much skill as they would have liked to, have got.
Fantastic. Great perspective. And I mean, right in the center of your argument and articulation, every time we get to see that the skilling part, right skilling part, is possibly at the center of all the issues. So I'll possibly take this particular issue to Simaprit. Simaprit, if we see, India has possibly changed dramatically after, since the early 90s, since we have the NEP, the so-called new economic policy. Now, after 3 decades, we are having a new NEP, which is not the new economic policy, but possibly the new education policy. And I think you will be at an advantageous position to enlighten us and the audience about this particular aspect. But how exactly you see the new economic policy helping India services sector, helping us right skilling, and how exactly you see the future on the basis of that?
So the NAP has basically, in a short, I'll just explain, has given more flexibility to the institutions. Earlier, the concept of single technical institution, like one institution will be only pharmacy based, one will be only engineering based, one will be only arts based. The NAP has made it possible that one institution can offer multiple sectors, can offer interdisciplinary subjects as its core. NAP has made it as a mandate that we have to offer in multidisciplinary education by 2030. So by including engineering with social sciences or music, technology, or agriculture, it has made possible for one person to have more knowledge, and that way it can have more experience about that sector as well. Because there's a change just off the topic, is a change that we are absorbing in a pharmacy institutions. Earlier, pharmacy companies used to hire students from our college. Now we're saying the ITs of the world hiring from our institution. So in the future, if in pharmacy we include IT as a subject with some other specialization, it will have a benefit for the IT company as well. So that way, the government is proposing that they're making it more dynamic. One more example I can share, that earlier degrees used to be 3 years or 4 years depending on the course, but now they want to exit every year. If we exit 1 year, you'll get the certificate. If you exit the second year of the education, you get a diploma. Third year, you get a degree. Fourth, you'll get an honor diploma, degree with honors. So that way, giving more flexible students as well, so that if they leave due to any reason, if they leave midway, at least they'll have something to carry with their home. And also, they have started the academic bank of credit. So there, what happens? A student sitting in Calcutta can finish 1 year in any course here, and second year you can do in Delhi or Bombay or any other university, and that will be acceptable for that university also, because of the credit bank that they're starting. It will have more what you call trans India in education for any student, and more flexibility for the student as well. So that way NEP is helping, and NEP is a clear focus that you have to be technology driven. We talk about technology in every sectors of the industry, but we never spoke about technology in the education industry. And NPC clearly outlined that technology has to be a major point of delivering education, because their intention is to go to more people where colleges. If you can't go, there's the concept that you can't bring the student to the college, you bring the college to the students or school to the student. That's why the finance minister launched one channel, one class initiative in the radio, so that more people have access to education. So that is the whole point, that technology has to be there. So that way, even there's a body called APAI in Bengal. So they, with the Bengal summit upcoming, so they have projected that 1,000 crore they will be investing in education sector in the next 2 years. This is in spite of the fact the last two has been washed out and many of the collection was dropped. So we can just see that education sector is investing in itself, and majority of that will be in the delivery aspect of the education, like IoT-based classroom, smart classroom, projectors, new labs, new technology. So we're expecting that technology will get a good push from here.
Fantastic, amazing concept. That in the banking parlance, we always talk about the so-called core banking system, etc., where if you have balance in one particular place, you can utilize that somewhere else or at a later date. Here, even in these areas, we'll be having something equivalent to that on a lighter note. So makes great sense, and absolutely sure that this will help us taking the education infrastructure to the next high. But I'll take this particular idea and try to connect with a couple of things that Mr. Thakur mentioned earlier, and also Mr. Basu also mentioned earlier, that very clearly there is a lot of flexibility that is coming in now in the services sector in general, and there's a new concept, new way of looking at it. Now, if we think about how the job markets and aspiring service sector participants' point of view, maybe 20-30 years back, people, and now the concept of startup or focus on startup, how exactly they can get into absolutely newer areas with a very lean, thin structure that's possibly is bringing in a very different kind of transformation to the whole services sector. And Mr. Thakur, I understand, I mean, you are very, very closely associated with on part of BAC on the startups area. If you share your experience, how exactly you see this particular segment changing India's services sector going ahead over the course of the next few years, that will be fantastic.
Thank you. I think, in fact, this startup and new education policy are very much interlinked, as earlier talked about by Asymmetry Singh. Because one very core, as you have talked about core value in banking system, in the same way, there are some core things that has been added in the new education policy. And one of the very important element of the new education policy is focusing on skills like vocational training program that they are going to impart under the new education policy. And I think that will be a game changer. Now, as far as the startup space is concerned, now it's a buzzword, but for me, any entrepreneur who is starting a business is a startup. Earlier, this terminology was not being used. For me, Reliance was also a startup at one point of time. Infosys was also a startup, and Bandhan Bank in its own era earlier was a startup. So all are a startup. One who becomes successful is being termed as unicorn. But yes, a startup space has been growing, and it's growing at a very rapid space. We are no longer a snake charmer country. Now we are not seeing the people, aspiring for, public service examination or government job. Now they are thinking in terms of starting a business. And newcomers from the big educational institutions, they are aspiring for becoming a successful entrepreneur. Very good ideas. They are, thriving with ideas, and with the ideas, they want to change the whole system of the country. But let me tell you, a startup, you can say the startup also starts with 2 persons, and it has also, implies around, 1,000 and 2,000 people who are associated with the startups. The only issue is that, all the stakeholders should now start working in the direction to make these startups profit making. Even those startups which have got converted into unicorns, I am not seeing them making profits. So there is a big issue for that. And in fact, the startup platform that we have started, out of the 14 startups which got listed, around 12 to 13 startups are profit making. So I think there a lot of work need to be done by all the investors and the stakeholders. Having said that, let me tell you, in last few years, there are a lot of last year itself, 14,000 startups got added into the system. Now today, the total number of startups as January 2022 is around 61,400. And now they are into diversified fields. You talk about health tech, you talk about edu tech, you talk about robotics, you name anything. And I think these startups are going to, change the way we are doing the things we are working. They are into artificial intelligence. You talk about any sector and they are there. And I think these startups are going to contribute a lot in the foreign exchange. They are going to export their, software skills outside. And, they will also create employment. Let me give you an example. Many of the times we think that startups may not create that much of employment. But if you see, there are few companies that I would like to name. For example, Zomato or Swiggy. They are indirectly almost 15,000 to 20,000 people are associated with them who are getting employment indirectly through them. They are contractual laborers, but they are associated with them. They have got employment. In the same way, even if you see in the Ola, for example, Ola cars or other things, there are also, thousands of drivers got job because of them. So it's not only that the startups will not create that much of that. Going forward, you will find that these startups are going to create a lot of jobs. Only thing is that, and what we are talking about, that the skill set. Yes, these startups, when they are going to employ people, they would like to have people who have got that, that skill set. And therefore, there is a lot to work on the human capital. Okay, that's very much required. So I think that, you will find that by 2025, healthcare industry itself will reach to somewhere around $372 billion. The software industry by 2025 may reach to $1 trillion USD. So I think a lot of promises are there that startups are giving. And I think it will, change the way we are doing the things.
This will change the way we are doing things, and possibly this particular topic or subtopic I'll take once again to Mr. Basu. Mr. Basu, if I think that India on the services sector possibly have a relatively tall standing in the global pecking order also. Compared to some of the other segments of ours like agriculture, manufacturing, but we enjoy a relatively strong standing in this particular area. On one hand, we are bridging our gap with possibly the Western world, but on the other hand, some of the other emerging countries and newer service sector providers are also possibly trying to catch up with us. So taking both these things into account, what do you see the future? That do you think India's relative strength, standing in the global order will eventually can be a little stronger, or we should be more worried about competition from other countries?
So I think great question. So I think the digital economy in India is going to keep growing. I don't think there's any worry about that. And I think if you look at this year's budgets also, whether it's around, support around digital payments, around, marking infrastructure category for data centers, or, the central bank digital currency, discussions about the 5G launch, around, the national broadband mission. I think all of those are very, positive steps as the digital economy of India moves forward. I think you were also asking that, can the others catch up with us? Yes, they can. But I think we have to look beyond that. We just don't need to look at the, others. We have to look at what US and China are doing, right? If you look at the unicorns in the US, okay? If you look at the unicorns in the US, you would find that the non-US founders, if you look at the non-US founders, the maximum number of non-US founders for that are from India. Okay, and this is quite interesting that they're followed by Israelis and others. But what you don't find there are Chinese. Okay, so probably one of the things which China has managed to do a bit differently, and again, the political system and the other systems are very different, but they have been probably able to reverse the brain drain, where Chinese are still going to the US universities, but they're coming back into China. So if you're looking at you look at the amount of unicorns coming out of China, you have a lot of them. But if you look at the unicorns which are in the US with Chinese founders, that they're not so many, right? So in one way you can look at that, is it good? Yes, Indians are part of that group, but it also means a lot of Indians are still moving out of the country, and there's still that pull which China has been able to reverse. So I think rather than worrying about whether Vietnam will be able to catch up with us, or how Israel would react and all of that, I think we have to create an ecosystem here which allows startups to flourish. Mr. Thakur was talking about some of them, access to infrastructure, mentoring, high quality access to market. The government has already come up with several PLI schemes, because some of these would also require manufacturing to go hand in hand. You can't just, it's not a pure services based ecosystem. So if you're into a health tech, for example, or you're into agri-tech, then probably you're also looking at devices and how you can manufacture devices better, which are of the quality which you would like to, sort of get inside your body and all. So I think it's an ecosystem that we'll have to create here. We are seeing some of the right measures, but we'll have to follow it up with more, which would then keep, the Indian unicorns in India, and you'll have a lot of them growing rather than just seeing some amount of brain drain still happening. So that would be my thought process on
that. That's a great point. And I'll come back on one of the issues in a bit. But meanwhile, if I just move on and come to once more to maybe Samarpreet. Samarpreet, so far we had been discussing about India services sector standing in the global arena. But for all the speakers, I'll eventually come with this particular angle on this particular BCCI forum. If we try to discuss a bit about what is happening in within India, in Eastern India, or more specifically in Bengal, whether things are moving in the right direction. For example, Samarpreet, you mentioned about discuss the new economic policy in quite a detail. How do you see the education policy of, for example, this state? Or another area is, given that you are so closely associated with a lot of students who are into going for diverse curriculum, how do you see the student mindset changing? Earlier, we used to see that they are thinking more about just 2-3 professions as coveted professions. And now possibly they are thinking about 500 very, very exciting, equally exciting professions. How exactly you see these, this couple of areas? Samarpreet.
Yeah. So we see the changes happening every couple of years actually. So around 2010 to 15, we observed that the core sector admissions had dropped. Then we realized the students are not wanting to go into core sector like electrical, mechanical, civil. They are wanting computer science, IT field. Then in the last around 2019 to 2020, we are observing a change there also. Now they don't want normal computer science. They want computer science with specialization like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data mining, cloud computing, etc. So we find the changes happening in a lot of very frequently nowadays. We find the students are more knowledgeable than us also. They know what is happening in the industry, and they kind of focus that after 4 years, this will be in demand. So I want to do it now. Earlier, the thing used to happen, education used to happen, then they used to plan for job. Now they want to secure the job from first hand, then they'll do the education. There's a big change we find in the technical space. And now students are more proactive to more new age technology, new age courses like animation, visual effect, gaming, media, tourism and hospitality, hospital management. So around if I say example of a group around 2010 to 15, our hospitality sector was only 2 to 5% of our entire group structure. But into before pandemic, it became around 25% of our structure. So we saw a lot of students wanting into go into tourism space, and they were mostly from Bengal. Generally, the trend is that from other states they come for all these new age different courses. But you find more people from Bengal are going to hospitality space. Though because of pandemic it has affected for a couple of years, but I'm sure with the easing out, this trend will continue. And one more trend that we are observing: medical tourism. The healthcare professional doctors, they're shortage of doctors, as we all know, but there's more shortage of paramedics, nursing staff, elder care people. So the government of India policy and the state policy are aligned in this matter, that they want to create more healthcare professionals. And there was a meeting last week with the West Bengal Principal Secretary of Health, where all of the health providers were there. And I was surprised to hear that they have committed around 10,000 beds in the next 2-3 years, which is like huge growth from the current capacity of beds. So, and with this type of investment coming in the health sector, I think the need for staff will increase much more. And I think Bengal can be a good medical hub in future, because we all know most of the good doctors are from Bengal and they end up in London, unfortunately, because of the arrangement with their council of doctors. But if more doctors stay here and more professionals and more institutions setting up for doctors, nurses, paramedics stay here, I think the job, as Mr. Basu also said, that the job will go. But if we focus on sector where jobs cannot be taken up with automation, I think I don't think doctors can be overtaken by robots as of now. I don't know about 10-20 years of future. Nurses, elder care, people who look after the elders, I don't think robots can do it. So if we focus on such sectors, then I think the unemployment rate will reduce. And that's why the government of India started a task force on animation, visual effect, gaming, and comic industry. I think there's a huge potential for our state, because if huge employment opportunity for this sector, and this can cater to the global level, not only Bollywood, Tollywood, but even Hollywood and other industries and the other entertainment industry of the world. And these are very both potential industries and also employment generation industries. And I think our focus as a group is also on health tech and this animation sector in the coming years. Thank you.
That's really encouraging to hear. Ms. Thakur, if I may ask you one particular, I'll come to this Bengal or Eastern India angle to you also, but I have a couple of questions for you. One is, if you see for example, in the capital market, in the manufacturing space, the small caps, mid caps, they have eventually over a period of time had really created their zone. Do you think that in the services, from the services industry also, a similar story in the offing? Can they make it even bigger eventually? Providing great tailwinds to the overall story?
See, when we are talking about a small company or mid-cap company, it's a company, it's not a sector. Even the service sector company will be the part of a small cap company or mid-cap company. Okay. But over the years, if you see the 25-30 years, the service sector companies have contributed maximum wealth generation. Okay, they have created the maximum wealth generation. You talk about the likes of Infosys, there are many companies, or even the hospital side, if you talk about Apollo Hospitals and these are. For me, the major problem, let me tell you, as far as the capital market is concerned, and which I keep on talking, since the time I launched the SME exchange in India, I have been moving across the country, met more than 36,000 promoters, and SME promoters I am talking about. And the major problem in our country, let me tell you, besides skills and all those things we are talking about, is financial literacy. still financial literacy is not there. If SEBI has recently surveyed and they said that 27% of the people are financially literate. But when it comes to financial planning, it may be hardly 1%. Okay. And it applies to all the MSME and even the startups. Okay. Whereby, we talk about out of 61,400 startups, if you have got only 83 startups, then it is not so much encouraging. We need to ensure that at least we in India, we should have 5,000 to 6,000 unicorn, at least 10%. So what's the major problem? Is the capital available? Capital is available. Then what's the problem with even the startup entrepreneurs or the SME entrepreneurs? They don't know financial planning. They don't know financial projections. They don't know how to project their company. And then then after some period, they start feeling the pressure when the finance is not available. So we can talk something good about all these things, that we have got 61,400 startups. We have got, great minds and all those things. One of the reasons for brain drain is also because these guys don't get funds, and therefore, or they don't get good package. And that's why also brain drain happens. So we need to ensure that we should also inculcate financial literacy in these entrepreneurs, and that's very important. And let me tell you, once these SME promoters and all those people come onto the stock exchange, they get funding, and then we have seen a huge growth happening in this company. So there is no dearth of idea. There is dearth of finance. There is a dearth of proper planning. There is a dearth of proper skilled people. There is also not a tendency to hire good people in the organization. Okay, that's a big opportunity cost. So I think if all these things can be brought, then I think, you will see a great transformation happening. Even if you talk about equity, equity funding or equity awareness, we have, again, Maharashtra and Gujarat taking the lead. Other states is still very much lagging. And therefore, if you see that, blue chip companies are not getting created in the other states like West Bengal or Eastern part. I am also from Eastern part of the country. I am also from Bihar. So I know what is the problem there. Why these companies, they like to remain as macro, small or medium companies. They don't grow beyond that. Okay. So first of all, I request all the promoters to be ambitious. Ambition is very good. And therefore, once you are ambitious, you'll grow your company. Then use all these policies that are, or all the initiatives that are being.
Mr. Thakur, sorry for interrupting, but if I just take this particular question at this juncture to you, that you mentioned about the eastern side phenomena, that in case of manufacturing, often we have seen the reluctance to really go for the for go big. Do you think in the services sector eventually Eastern India will be changing that tag?
It's across the sector. It's across the sector, not only service, across the sector. Even the startups, we want the startup, we don't want the startups only be from the metro cities, only from Kolkata. It should be across West Bengal, across all the cities. Okay, we want more and more startups. We don't want only 2-3 from Kolkata, not from other places. Then there will be huge inequality. Okay, and there will be influx of people from other places to the urban areas, and that will be a big burden on the infrastructure. So I think these things need to inculcate. People need to handhold these startups and the SME and make them big.
No, that's a great point. We are almost towards the end of our discussion, but can't resist the temptation of going to Mr. Basu once with one particular question. There are two questions actually, quickly. One is, all the panelists, and very much including you have mentioned about the difficulty or issue of inclusivity in the services sector. That's a real issue. But if you could share with us your thoughts about how exactly we should move ahead in terms of addressing that particular issue, that is one. And as I asked, the other question is, as I asked the other panelists, that what is your take on the services sector in Bengal in particular? We have discussed about the country as a whole. Are you happy with the progress we are making?
Unmute yourself.
Sorry. Yeah. So I'll take both of these very quickly. So I think the first is that I think this income inequality or wealth disparity has to change. And part of the reason why I have highlighted that is, if you look at the startup ecosystem or what's happening in the services sector, in many cases, even if they're not a startup, what Mr. Thakur had referred to, if you look at the valuation of a Zomato versus these 13,000 people who are working or 50,000 people who might be working in similar companies, there's no wealth dissemination which is happening. So in that kind of a scenario, you would have, yes, I'm generating a lot of work, but what kind of work am I generating? That's one. The second is, if you were to marry it with this question on Bengal and what we are doing, we need an ecosystem. Yes, the government has made some strides, both the state government and the central government, but we need an ecosystem to declutter the cities. As again, some of our other panelists were saying, you can't have it all happening in Bangalore and Gurgaon and Kolkata and Pune. You need to have an ability to declutter the cities for overall this thing to be sustainable. And that can only happen if your access to education, access to health, access to infrastructure, access to all of these can be done in the second tier, third tier cities in the state. Now, unless we can do that, you will always have people moving out of the city, smaller towns into the bigger cities, trying to create something. Even when they create it, it's a very resource intensive model in many cases, and somehow the fruits of all that does not flow back to where they originated from. And it doesn't happen. Even with these 2 years of working from home, people have not actually come back from Bangalore to Kolkata. When we had that, over the years, we have lost a lot of, there's been a lot of brain drain from, say, Kolkata to, say, Bangalore or Delhi because of, industrialization there or IT industry there. They have not really come back. So the point is, unless you get the overall ecosystem ready in, the tier 2, tier 3 cities, it's very difficult.
Great. Hopefully we move gradually and fast enough in that particular direction. This discussion we could possibly continue for another 1 or 2 hours. It'll never fade to fascinate. But in the interest of time, we have to stop here. My heartfelt thanks to all the panelists for fantastic insights. And with that, I'd hand it over to Arnab for the next sessions and proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Sannal. We are really grateful for wonderful moderation. We are, of course, grateful to Mr. Arnab Basu, Vice President of Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Advisory Leader and Partner, PwC India. Mr. Simranpreet Singh, Director, JIS Group. Mr. Ajay Thakur, Head, BSc SME and Startup, BSc Limited. We are so grateful that you have joined us. With this, we conclude this session. We are also thankful to all our sponsors, to all our guest speakers throughout the day, and also the audience. Please stay tuned with us. We'll be back within a minute. Thank you all.